Welcome to the ninth episode of Join Us at the Table. My name is Brandon Sage. I am a recent graduate from the Levy School of Business. And today's guest is Danny Wright, the founder and executive director of a nonprofit called Gravity Water, which is focusing on a brand new solution to the global water crisis. It is providing energy-free, safe drinking water to schools around the world. Welcome, Danny. Would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to start Gravity Water?
Yeah, thanks for having me. So my name's Danny. I'm from Santa Cruz, California. Originally, I got interested in water by growing up around it, down the street from the beach, spending time on the San Lorenzo River, and just, grew a strong affinity for it. After traveling through through a field study program through my undergraduate studies at UC Santa Barbara, I was opened up to a lot of the challenges that people face around the world regarding water. The focus of our field study was on community-based conservation in Belize. And when we were down there, I got to see firsthand how even areas that have access to a lot of fresh water still have challenges dealing with it. So this was one of the opportunities I identified as something I could really see as a long-term pathway for myself, for my work, is finding this intersection between humans and their environment and how we can learn to work with our environment to create better outcomes for society.
Awesome. So would you mind kind of going off of that, just providing a little context to the current need for safe drinking water and why this is really important to get involved with right now?
Yeah, so the global water crisis, or the reality that, millions of people around the world don't have access to water and billions of people around the world are drinking contaminated water, is a challenge that humanity has been trying to solve and address for decades. We've invested billions of dollars trying to address this issue because it's one of the leading causes of death around the world, especially for children. Waterborne illness and diarrheal disease, I think, number 5 as one of the most deadly, or one of the greatest causes of death around the world. So right now, where we stand is we've done amazing work in education, in incorporating not just water, but sanitation and hygiene into how we address kind of the full circle aspect, which is access to water and also preventing bacteria and contaminants from entering our system and getting us sick. However, we still have a long way to go. Right now, or as of 2019, the World Health Organization estimated over 2 billion people, or 1 in 4 people, are drinking water contaminated with feces. So over the last couple of decades, one of our goals was really how do we increase access to potable water? How do we create access to drinking water? But just because people have access doesn't mean that they're using it. It might be out of their reach due to economic reasons, for instance. So I think a big focus of water right now is how do we ensure clean drinking water is a human right, free of charge to everyone. And that's going to be the next step.
All right. Yeah, it's pretty crazy how widespread and serious the issue is right now. So I'm curious if you could explain a little bit more about the design of how you're harvesting this rainwater and how these storage containers kind of function.
Yeah, so, when we launched a concept I came up with in that field studies course I took in Belize, and the challenges I witnessed that communities were facing was access to potable, safe drinking water. The water they were accessing was from a stream that had contaminants from agricultural pollutants, pesticides, and for most people around the world, when we think of the global water crisis, we think of mainly communities maybe in Africa that have to walk 2 hours to fill up a a bucket with dirty water and bring it back. And that's a real problem for many people around the world, and is one of the most severe issues that we need to address immediately is water access, water scarcity, physical water scarcity especially. However, for around 80% of the population, it's not an issue of access to fresh water, it's an issue of access to safe water. And so what Gravity Water's real focus is on is how do we work in conjunction with the nonprofits building the wells, addressing water scarcity, and how do we provide safe drinking water for that other 80%? And so how our systems, what we designed was a system that really works well in the tropics and subtropics and has a focus on rainwater harvesting. So what we do is we go into schools primarily and set up these rainwater harvesting systems that harvest rainwater and store it about 6 feet or 2 meters off the ground. And this will be enough storage for anywhere from a month to 3 months, depending on their consecutive dry days on average over maybe a 20-year period. The water then from that storage is filtered using a gravity-fed filtration system that's at the base of the filters. So it goes from roof to gutter to storage tank through a filtration system that filters out chemicals, metal, taste, odor, bacteria, parasites, pretty much everything that is an immediate threat to people or water-related threat. After the water is filtered through our filtration system, it goes into a sterile storage tank, which the community can access and at any time throughout the day. And our systems produce about 1,400 liters of filtered drinking water that meets EPA standards for private drinking water use, completely energy-free.
Awesome. So I want to read a little quote, something that I found from your website that stood out to me. So it says, gravity water systems are built with basic skill sets such as plumbing and welding, eliminating dependency on foreign or advanced aid to develop the systems. This allows communities to be a part of the building process, creating local jobs, empowerment, and ownership within every community. So I'd be curious if you could speak to that a little bit and maybe elaborate on this more sustainable approach to development and if there's a plan to sort of scale these projects.
So one of the things that we've observed, I think, as an international water relief community is the challenges we face in creating long-term resilient solutions. So there was an estimate that about 60% of wells fail over time in Africa, or something like that. I'm not sure the source of that statistic, so I'm not going to quote it, but I can tell you that failed pumps and failed electrical systems are one of the highest costs associated with upkeeping a water system and one of the primary reasons they fail. So if we're not looking at the challenges that are causing our efforts to be not invested in a way that's sustainable and for the communities for the long term, then we're not really creating a solution. We're creating a temporary fix. So when we talk about how we create resilient solutions for communities, we need to incorporate what the long-term strategy is for management. And if we're introducing any kind of technology that they're not familiar with or that they don't have access to, that's not incorporating sustainability. And just on the same way, if we come into a community and we drill a well or we build a technology that takes water out of the air and gives it to people, if it breaks, they're not able to fix it. So it's really, really critical when we think about challenges that communities are facing, regardless if it's water or agricultural based, that we're thinking about how can we use the resources that are already in existence to either increase efficiency or use pre-existing technology that exists there in a new way to make it more effective. And that's pretty much what we do. Is every single piece of technology we use is existing in the communities. Therefore, every community has somebody who knows how to work with it. And yeah, it's been the number one cause of our success, I would say. And regarding your question about scalability, that's another huge element, is if I had to be responsible for installing every clean water system, how many could I do per year? I could train other people to do it, and maybe we can do it, but if we can have one person coordinate with people who already know how to build the systems, already know how to plumb or use PVC or weld, then all of a sudden we have access to be able to construct hundreds of these per week across the world if we had that capacity. Moving forward, we are now leaving our proof of concept stage after hitting our 10,000 child per day mark for people using our system. And we're now aiming to work with governments to scale our systems that way through working with their budgets for school infrastructure and WASH.
Wow, very interesting and very important approach I think you have. It sounds like you're really figuring out the best and most sustainable way to have a lasting positive impact on these communities. So that's awesome. So starting to wrap up here, I'm curious if you could speak to a specific moment or event that stands out where you were sort of reassured that the work you're doing is positively impacting individuals or communities.
The one thing that sticks out in my mind right away is coming back. So February 2016, we built our first system. We came back in the fall of that year and built 4 more. And one of the schools I came back to visit, I visited all of them, but in 2017, I came back to one school in particular, and I walked out onto the school, and our water system's right in the center. And it was so cool because before I could even get to it, I was obviously, that was the first thing I looked at, right, when I got on the property. I could see kids just running up and using it, and it was completely not the special thing. It wasn't it was so ingrained into their daily lifestyle that it was this just secondary compulsive behavior that all these kids were drinking from this clean water source instead of this tap. And that's how I knew that we've created something that was gonna make a long-term solution, at least for this community, because it was already 100% adopted culturally in use. So that was a really cool memory I have.
Awesome. Yeah, I bet that feels very rewarding, to say the least. So sort of final remarks here. I'm just wondering, viewers that are interested in supporting Gravity Water or want to get involved in some way, do you have any where you suggest or send them specifically, like a website or?
Yeah, you can check out our website, gravitywater.org, to learn more about our work. You can always email me, Danny@gravitywater.org, if you have any questions. I'd like to chat. Regarding how to get involved in our work, as I mentioned, we really focus on communities building. The one resource they don't have is finances. So a lot of our work as Gravity Water is how can we help these communities? How can we help these communities fund these projects? 2 really easy ways you can do that and get involved is, one, through becoming a member to our program. It's $8 a month. It's about the cost of a burrito every month, and it provides a kid with clean water for a permanent source of clean water. So that's 12 kids per year if you stay on as a member for a year. So it's a really affordable, easy way to get involved at a minimal level. Another way you can get involved right now is through an event we're hosting on July 18th. Called Walk for Water Day. You can find it on our website at gravitywater.org, or you could go to walk4waterday.org. And it's a really cool event where it's completely free to register and participate and walk 5 miles in solidarity for clean water access to raise awareness and also have the opportunity to fundraise for clean water projects. So I invite anyone who would like to participate to check out the site for more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Danny. I really enjoyed hearing more about the work that you're doing, and thank you for joining us at the table.
Awesome. Thank you, Brandon.